Joint Base Elmendorf-RICHARDSON, Alaska. Alaskan Command will conduct Arctic Edge, a biennial exercise, February 28–March 17. Arctic Edge is designed to provide realistic and effective training for participants using the premier training locations available throughout Alaska. Alaskan Command has successfully operated in the Arctic and defended Alaska for more than 70 years. Arctic operations and exercises such as Arctic Edge demonstrate the capabilities utilized to defend our homeland and our interests, said U.S. Air Force Lt Gen Krumm, Commander, Alaskan North American Aerospace Defense Command Region, North American Aerospace Defense Command, Commander, Alaskan Command, U.S. Northern Command, and Commander, 11th Air Force, Pacific Air Forces. To deter day-to-day, de-escalate in crisis, and if required defeat in conflict, we must be able to operate and thrive in the Arctic. Technologies are changing and access to the Arctic is increasing, so it is imperative those who choose to come to the Arctic are abiding by international rules and norms, said Krumm. Domain awareness is critical for maintaining a free and open, prosperous and safe protected Arctic. Approximately 1,000 U.S. military personnel will participate in the multinational, multi-service exercise. Arctic Edge is a U.S. Northern Command, USNORTHCOM, exercise scheduled every 2 years, first taking place in 2018. Arctic exercises have been conducted in Alaska for the past 5 decades under different names, such as Jack Frost and BRIM Frost. Arctic Edge 22 is linked to other service-specific exercises including the National Guard's Arctic Eagle Patriot, the U.S. Army's Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Capability Exercise, and the U.S. Navy's ICEX. These exercises will occur concurrently or consecutively with Arctic Edge 22 during February and March 2022. Arctic Edge 22 is the largest joint exercise scheduled in Alaska this year. The Army's medium-range radar was a highly anticipated capability when it was acquired in 2018. 2 years later, on its first deployment outside of Canada to support a multinational exercise, the MRR has drawn widespread acclaim and piqued curiosity about its longer-term potential. In early March 2020, in the subarctic shoal of Alaska, the MRR and a radar troop from 4th Artillery Regiment, General Support, working alongside a U.S. Marine Corps Air Ground Task Force, became a vital contributor to a command air picture when others around them were struggling. Arctic Edge is a biannual exercise led by Alaska Command, a subordinate command to U.S. Northern Command headquartered at Joint Base Elmendorf-RICHARDSON. The exercise is intended to improve the Arctic readiness of both Alaska-based troops and supporting units from across the U.S. For participating Canadian Armed Forces units, it's an opportunity to practice the integration of what are often specific and, at times, unique capabilities into complex coalition operations. In 2020, shortly before the coronavirus restricted large-scale collective training, Arctic Edge also provided the overarching context for 2 additional overlapping exercises, Arctic Eagle and ICEX. Though primarily an exercise for National Guard forces, Arctic Eagle included a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive scenario that involved a 10-soldier team from 39 Canadian Brigade Group. ICEX, a U.S. Navy submarine exercise on and under the Arctic ice, included supply support from 440 Transport Squadron in Yellowknife. In addition, a CC-130J Hercules from 436 Transport Squadron provided troop transport and airdrops, including a U.S. Army paratroop jump near Fort Greely. 2 CC-138 Twin Otters from 440 Squadron conducted medevac flights and transport of supplies and personnel into austere locations, including sea ice landings on an ice floe, about 240 kilometers from the Alaskan coast during ICEX. The units that were participating all had niche capabilities that the Americans didn't, said Lieutenant Colonel Scott Marshall, commanding officer of the Canadian detachment at Joint Base Elmendorf-RICHARDSON, and the commander of the Canadian National Elements during the exercise. These exercises not only helped to highlight what the Royal Canadian Air Force and the Canadian Army can do, but they allowed us to operate with non-traditional American NORD units. A lot of the Americans were from outside of Alaska, so it was an eye-opener for them. The Army's medium-range radar certainly fit the bill as a niche capability. The MRR brings together what were previously separate air defense and surveillance target acquisition functions in one platform. It was initially intended to detect and locate sources of indirect fire, such as rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, and other munitions that were fired at bases in Afghanistan. But in air defense mode, it can identify friend or foe targets such as aircraft at great distances. Working alongside the Marines from the back of a LAV-2 Bison, the radar troop tracked live rocket rounds, accurately identifying the launch and impact points to within a diameter of 60 and 20 meters, respectively. The MRR also supported special forces operating at a considerable distance, providing accurate location information of their 2 Chinook helicopters to the Marine Corps commander on the ground. One of the biggest things we offered was greater command situational awareness for assets operating in the area of operations, whether that was fixed-wing or rotary-wing assets, said Lieutenant Travis Frexell, an artillery officer with the 4th Artillery Regiment. That the MRR was able to share its air picture was due in no small measure to a little-known RCAF spoke kit, so called because of its hub-and-spoke architecture. The Magic Box, as others quickly dubbed it, allows you to get the communications infrastructure, no matter where you are in the world, as long as you have some basic rules, explained Sergeant Tim Blindback, a Joint Interface Control Officer with 21 Aerospace Control and Warning Squadron, at 22 Wing North Bay, Ontario. The Canadian Air Defence Sector for NORD. The box allows you to plug in a cell phone, and as long as you have internet connectivity in any way, shape, or form, you can get a good, secure connection back to home base and out into the world. The Blindback is one of the Air Force's foremost authorities on linked networks, and had volunteered for the exercise when he heard planners needed tactical data link specialists. He immediately recognized that communicating was going to be a challenge. Though the Alaskan region had communications infrastructure and command and control systems to support the exercise, there was no Link 16 network to connect the MRR in the field to the exercise command center. However, though the radar troop and Marines would be dispersed and in the boonies during the exercise, they could receive a cell phone signal. The radar troop, base of 5th Canadian Division Support Base Gagetown, made a pit stop at Best Buy before heading north and bought a 4G modem pack and a SIM card. When they plugged it into the spoke kit in the back of their Bison, boom, we had connectivity set Blindback. We were able to create a computer network and configure the system to pass Link 16 data over the computer network, rather than over radio frequency. The significance of that became apparent as radios and other equipment used by various Marine, U.S. Army, and National Guard units froze or otherwise experienced firmware failures in the frigid conditions. The spoke kit not only connected the MRR to the exercise command, but it also provided the air picture to the Canadian and Alaskan Regional NORD command centers, and the national chains of command, including the Canadian Joint Operations Command in Ottawa. That was huge because we did not have that capability before said Marshal. They got to do a lot more than we expected, even with the grand scale of this exercise. Getting two systems to share data might not seem that remarkable. But having it actually communicate with NORD, because of the encryption and all the different computer systems and software languages, was a marvel set for Excel. No one had ever envisioned deploying the spoke kit 2 heavy servers in a large Pelican case in the back of an armored vehicle, admitted Blindback. Though it was overkill for the purposes of Arctic Edge, it was a creative solution and an example of how to make the best use. It was designed to support forward deployments in other countries, like standing up a headquarters, he explained. It was meant to serve every possible network need that you might require. We only wanted connectivity to one network. But we saw the opportunity and we happened to have one for use. It took a lot of work to get it into place, but it worked out really well. For Blindback's 22 wing team, which was co-located with the exercise headquarters, and served as the bridge to the MRR troop in the field, being able to provide the HQ staff with a complete air picture, including Blue Force tracking, and facilitate text messaging and basic chat over a secure connection was gratifying. The Americans were ecstatic. They were able to look at the ex-staff and say, "We have active, tactical data links in the field." That was something they weren't able to accomplish domestically, because of those problems with the equipment failures, he said. It gave the X the only TDL component that it would have had otherwise, and it proved Canada can show up and get stuff done.